Welcome to the Dr. AMADI Show, where we rise above the noise, breathe, and step into a higher dimension of leadership, emotional mastery, and personal rulership. I'm your host, Dr. Emmanuel AMADI, and in this space, we confront the pressures of life. And we awaken the leader buried inside every human spirit. Whether you're listening from Glasgow, London, New York, or anywhere across the world, this is your moment to grow. So take a breath, open your heart, and prepare to think deeper, live stronger. This is the Dr. AMADI Show.
Thank you for tuning in to my very first episode of the Dr. AMADI Show, broadcasting from the city of Glasgow in Scotland. My name is Dr. AMADI. And first and foremost, I want to sincerely appreciate you for giving me your valuable asset, which is your time. This is not just another podcast. This is a platform for strategic conversations about everything, about leadership, human performance, sustainable success, executive capacity, and the future of meaningful living in a demanding world of today. Now, before we begin today's conversation, I want you to do something very important for me. Just simple thing. Please bring a pen and a notebook. Because one idea, one sentence, one moment of clarity can actually change the direction of a person's life forever. And today's episode may speak directly to someone who may be carrying silent pressure wherever they are, whether in the family or at work. Today's topic is why successful people secretly collapse. Why do some of them crumble in the midst of wealth or success? That is what I want to discuss today. 745,000. Not 45,000, but 745,000. That is not a small number. That is bigger than the population of many cities and towns across the whole of the United Kingdom. In fact, it is more than the estimated population of an entire city like Glasgow, where I live today with my family. That is the scale I want to discuss about today. In 2021, the World Health Organization, together with the International Labour Organization, published findings in the journal Environment International, revealing that long working hours contributed to more than 745,000 deaths globally from stroke and heart disease. Let me say it clearly so it sinks in. 745,000 people die every year due to heart attack and stress. Think about that carefully. It is larger than the population of Bristol in the United Kingdom. It is almost the size of Leeds in England. Imagine an entire major city wiped out every year, not by war, not by famine, not natural disaster, neither by epidemic violence, but work, overwork, chronic pressure, and unmanaged stress at work. A lifestyle society has normalized, and in many cases, they celebrate pressure. Wow. And yet, many intelligent people still believe exhaustion is a badge of honor. For many reasons. Many leaders are applauded for burnout. And many professionals are rewarded for self-neglect. Many executives are currently dying privately while succeeding publicly. You see, one of the greatest tragedies in modern society is this. A person can become so successful in life without becoming sustainable. A person can hold wealth and simultaneously destroy their health without compromise. A person can rise professionally while collapsing emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and relationally. And this is why today's conversation matters more to me. Because success without sustainability eventually becomes collapse. It becomes inevitable. And these deaths are not random. The World Health Organization is very clear about it. Stroke and heart attack are directly caused by long working hours in our society. This is not burnout. This is not stress. This is fatal. And the people most at risk are the same people our society calls successful. Yet the world still celebrates exhaustion as if it is an evidence of importance. But hear me today and hear me wisely. Success is not sustainability. And many of the people we admire today are actually and quietly dying under pressure due to the weight of their achievements. The question right now is not, are you successful? The real question right now is, can your life sustain success you are building right now? Wow. Today, I want to confront a truth that most people never speak about. A truth that hides behind titles, salaries, influence, and achievement. Successful people do not collapse because they are weak. They collapse because their internal systems were never built to carry the weight of their external achievements. Let me say that again. It is not weakness. It is misalignment. It is overload. It is unmanaged pressure. Because our brains, our emotions, our nervous systems, they were never designed to operate under the relentless, unending, high-intensity pressure that modern world success demands. And when your internal world cannot match the speed of your external world, collapse becomes inevitable. This is psychology. This is neuroscience. This is human biology under pressure. And this disconnect between what we are carrying right now and what we are about to build creates a series of predictable breakdowns. It leads to emotional exhaustion, decision fatigue, cognitive overload, relational strain, spiritual emptiness, and internal fragmentation. This is why many people who are high performers succeed publicly but collapse privately. And to help you understand this clearly, I have broken today's episode into fundamental 5 key sections. 5 revelations that will show you why success without capacity becomes self-destruction, and how to build the internal infrastructure that can sustain you for a very, very long time. In section 1, I will share with you the science of collapse. Section 2 focuses on the psychology of overachievement. In sections 3 and 4, I will dive into the spiritual dimensions of collapse and why successful people secretly collapse in the midst of their abundance. And finally, section 5, which I call the capacity principle, what they are and how to apply them immediately to your own life right now. So let's go to section 1, the science of collapse. The science of collapse. Neuroscience has been sounding the alarm for years, But most high performers, including business managers, never slow down long enough to hear this message. In 2018, Dr. Amy Anston, a world-renowned neurologist at Yale University, published research revealing something shocking. Wow. Stress does not make you tired. Stress literally shuts down your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for clarity, judgment, emotional control, and decision-making. Think about that. Think about it clearly. The very thing you rely on to lead, to think, to decide, to manage people, to run your own business, to navigate pressure of daily life, is the first thing stress begins to shut down. This means the more pressure you carry, the less clearly you think. The more responsibility you hold, the more vulnerable your brain becomes. The more successful you become, the more fragile your decision-making becomes under stress. And here is the emotional punch. Many high performers are not failing because they are incapable. They are simply failing because their brain is operating in survival mode. This is not weakness. This is biology. This is neuroscience. This is the human condition under pressure. And this is why we must talk about capacity today. Because if stress can shut down the part of your brain that makes you a leader, then building capacity is not optional. It is essential. Under pressure, high performers become reactive instead of strategic. They burn out easily while appearing successful externally. Dr. Christina Maslach of the UC Berkeley, the world's leading burnout researcher, once described burnout in 2016 as a crisis in relationship between people and their work. Not laziness, not weakness, a crisis. And many leaders are living in that crisis silently. This takes me to section 2, the psychology of overachievement. The psychology of overachievement. So what do I mean by this? In 1960, Dr. Maxwell Watts wrote a book titled The Psycho-Cybernetics. He said, and I quote, "Your life is always moving in the direction of your dominant thoughts." What an interesting statement. But here is my question. What happens when your dominant thoughts are pressure, deadlines, expectations, responsibility, fear of slowing down? What happens? Your life begins to move towards collapse. In his legendary book, Think and Grow Rich, first published in 1937, and now one of the best-selling personal development books in history, with over 100 million copies sold worldwide, Napoleon Hill issued a warning that most people ignore today. He said, and I quote, "No man can succeed without peace of mind." Wow. No man can succeed without peace of mind. Think about that. A man who studied 500 of the most successful people of his generation, from Andrew Carnegie to Henry Ford to Thomas Edison, concluded that peace of mind is the foundation of all sustainable success. Yet today, many wealthy professionals have everything in life except peace. They have the income, they have the influence, they have the lifestyle, they have the recognition they ever needed, but they do not have rest. They do not have clarity. They do not have internal stability. they do not have peace of mind, which is the crucible. And without peace, success becomes a prison. Without peace, achievement becomes anxiety. Without peace, wealth becomes weight. And when the soul is overwhelmed with pressure, the life eventually follows. So let me take you back to the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23. This is what King Solomon, the wealthiest man of his generation, the wisest voice of his civilization, and the most influential leader of his era, had to say to anyone who desires to rise, to anyone who desires to lead other people, and to anyone who desires to prosper in their lifetime. He spoke not as a poor man advising the rich, but as a rich man advising the aspiring. He spoke not as a follower trying to impress leaders. King Solomon spoke as a leader shaping future leaders. And what did King Solomon say? And I quote, "Guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flow the issues of life." Meaning, your internal world determines the quality of your external world today. Notice what King Solomon didn't say. He never said, guard your money. He never said, guard your job. He never said, guard your title. And he never said, guard your office. He also never said, guard your reputation. He never said, guard your followers, your platform, your influence, your connections, your opportunities. No, the richest man who ever lived said none of that at all. He said, guard your heart. Your heart. Because your heart is not your chest. Your heart is your mind. Your heart is your thoughts. Your heart is your beliefs. Your heart is your convictions. Your heart is your imagination. Your heart is the center of your decisions, the womb of your ideas, the birthplace of your future and your future generations. Solomon understood a principle. If you lose money today, you can make it again tomorrow. If you lose a job today, you can find another one tomorrow. If you lose your position again, you'll find another one. But if you lose your heart, your mind, your clarity, your inner life, you lose the very source from which everything flows. So he said, guard your heart. Guard it diligently. Guard it intentionally. Guard it relentlessly. Why? Because your heart will never rise higher than the state of your heart. So let me tell you a personal story that has shaped my life for a long time. Right after the COVID lockdown, when the healthcare system around the world was confused about COVID, when pressure was very loud, when uncertainty was very global, I picked up a book written in 1952 by Neville Goddard titled The Power of Awareness. And that book has reshaped the way I interpret pressure, the way I interpret crisis, the way I interpret circumstances up to today. Neville wrote a statement that arrested me forever. And he said, you rise as high as your dominant state of consciousness. Meaning, if your consciousness is overwhelmed, your life will eventually follow. If your inner world collapses, automatically your world will soon reflect it. Then Dr. Miles Monroe added another layer of truth. When purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. And today, many successful people, not the struggling, not the confused, but the successful, are quietly abusing their own lives. Why? Because they have lost purpose, they have lost clarity, and they have lost internal alignment. Their success is loud, but their soul is tired, very, very tired. Their achievements are visible, but their inner life is fractured. And this brings me to section 4. Why successful people secretly collapse under pressure. Most people assume that successful individuals collapse because they are weak. But the truth is far more sobering than this. Successful people collapse because their achievement outgrows their capacity. They collapse because their responsibility expands faster, way faster than their internal structure. Their visibility grows faster than their emotional stability. They collapse because their schedules increases while their soul decreases. Their success accelerates while their systems remain outdated. And their public life expands while their private life shrinks away gradually. If this podcast is already speaking to you, pause for a moment, subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who is leading a team, a business, or a family. Because success is not determined by what you achieve. Success is determined by what you can sustain. So let's continue. And hear me today. Collapse does not begin with failure. Collapse begins with unmanaged success. This is why founders burn out. This is why executives lose marriages. This is why wealthy professionals lose peace. This is why high performers lose themselves. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack discipline, not because they lack ambition, but because they were never taught capacity, even in the classroom. And this leads us to the most important revelation of this entire episode, the principle that determines whether your success becomes sustainable or self-destruction. If collapse happens when success outgrows capacity, then the solution is not more about success. The solution is more about capacity. And that brings us to the foundation of everything I teach, everything I advise, and everything this podcast stands for, the executive capacity principle. Now let's go to our final section, section 5, the executive capacity principle, and understand what it's all about. The executive capacity principle states that your life can only rise to the level of your ability to manage it. The level to manage it. So let me define it clearly. Capacity is your God-given ability to manage the responsibilities you carry. Capacity is not talent. Capacity is not intelligence. Capacity itself is not ambition. Rather, capacity is management. Wow. And this is not just psychology, this is scripture. So let me take you back to the book of Genesis chapter 2 verse 15. And the Bible says, God placed man in the garden to work it and to manage it. To work it and to manage it. Before God gave humans a command, he first gave them capacity. And before God gave Adam a garden, he gave him the ability to manage it successfully. Before God gave Adam a wife, he gave him the ability to manage relationships. Before God gave Adam responsibility, he gave him the ability to handle responsibility. This is not religious message. This is a kingdom message. God gives ability before assignment. God is not the business of frustrating people. He does not give you a task you cannot manage. He does not give you a blessing you cannot sustain. And he does not give you a responsibility you cannot carry. The frustration we feel in leadership, in business, in marriage, in wealth, in relationships, in executive life does not come from God. It comes from our own lack of knowledge, ability to manage capacity, the capacity has already placed in us. We are not overwhelmed because the assignment is too big. We are overwhelmed because our capacity is underdeveloped. This is why executives feel burdened. This is why founders feel stretched out. This is why wealthy professionals feel exhausted. And this is why high performers feel fragmented in their jobs. Not because they are incapable, but because they are unaware of the capacity they carry within. Capacity is internal infrastructure that sustains external success. So capacity includes emotional regulation, clarity of thoughts, decision-making strength, personal systems, boundaries, disciplines, resilience, spiritual alignment, relationship intelligence, and lifestyle structure. This is why wealthy people collapse. Their success grew, but their capacity did not. It shrank. Their income increased so high, but their emotional management did not. Their influence expanded so much, but their internal order did not. Their responsibilities multiplied in hundredfolds, but their systems remained the same. The same emotions, the same thinking, and the same way of life. Their world got bigger, but their soul got smaller. Why people need this principle? Why? Because every high performer eventually reaches a point where talent is enough. An area where intelligence is not enough. An area where work is not enough. They reach the level that ambition is not enough. And even money itself, no matter how much they are not enough. At that point, only capacity sustains you. So here is the big revelation you can take home after watching this podcast. Success is not determined by what you achieve. Success is determined by what you can sustain. This is the executive capacity principle. This is the foundation of sustainable leadership. And this is the difference between achievement and collapse. This is the difference between wealth and wisdom. This is the difference between success and longevity. And this is why you are here today, to listen to this podcast. Before I end this podcast, let me remind you once again that success without sustainability becomes self-destruction. Achievement without alignment becomes anxiety. Wealth without wisdom becomes your own weakness. Therefore, the future belongs to leaders who can preserve clarity, who can preserve capacity, emotional stability, strategic thinking, and sustainable energy while carrying out the responsibilities of modern-day success. I am Dr. AMADI, reminding you that your mind is your empire, your emotions are your soldiers, and your clarity is your crown. Until we meet again, guard your heart, master your state, and rise above every pressure. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. AMADI Show. If there's one thing I want you to remember, it's this: your current circumstances do not define your future. The decisions you make today do. Every week, we bring you practical insights, real-world solutions, and powerful conversations designed to help you lead better, live better, and achieve more. If this episode added value to your life, subscribe and share it with someone who needs encouragement, direction, or a breakthrough. To work with us, partner with us, or discover how we can help you unlock your next level, visit amadiglobal.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep becoming the person you were created to be. This is Dr. Emmanuel Amadi. Thank you for listening to the Dr. Amadi Show.